Well, welcome everybody. This is what's going to be a fantastic webinar on how the produce industry can basically avoid what is a $3 billion a year problem in Australia, which is products being exported overseas only to be essentially either diluted, duplicated, ripped off in some way. And it's fundamentally just breaking down customer trust that the product they've got in the hand is actually what they were looking for. So we've got a fantastic, probably just 20 minutes or so on this. It's going to be a crash course in there's a lot of ideas in here that perhaps will be a little bit new to you, because I know I've had to come up to speed with it. If it is the case, feel free to questions in the chat or reach out to us directly afterwards. Fundamentally, we've got ourselves in this position because Web 2.0 basically created a lot of silos and infrastructure, which AI really is a threat to right now. What we are in is a new era with Web 3.0, which these guys explained to you, including blockchain technology paired with AI, that really creates a very resilient way to create full traceability from the start of the supply chain all the way through to the customers. What the customer knows they've got in the hand is legitimate. Now, there is some very complicated stuff that we need to cover to bring up to speed in this. We have two geniuses on board today, in Ty Osborne from SQiBLE and also Ilya Joel Pritchard from Falconlabs. Now, these guys are geniuses, so sometimes they're going to go into tech talk. So luckily, I speak fluent genius, so my job will be to sometimes catch them and say, okay, can you put that down into some simple terms for us? But fundamentally, we've got an opportunity today to explore what is it if I've got a lobster that I'm shipping to another country, or I've got a bottle of expensive wine, how do I make it to the other end when someone scans it, that barcode hasn't just been photocopied over and over and over to create infinite number or even diluted the product down? How do we make sure it's authentic? So I'm going to start today with Ty. And Ty from SQiBLE, can you just introduce everybody into what Web 2.0 is, and fundamentally how we are in a problem where the supply chain is just so vulnerable to corruption?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, so basically, the problem stems from silos, or as per the illustration of different manufacturers, distributors, producers, whatever they are, having their own systems. And the only real communication between these different companies is all paper-based, whether it's PDFs, emails, that could be purchase orders, customer orders, even certificates of documents. They all flow between these different silos or islands of information. No one has the complete visibility across the entire supply chain. And these gaps, these blind spots, really are where there's opportunities for fraud to occur. So no one can see, what they truly were sent and what they were truly received. So it creates this problem where, fraud can occur quite frequently.
And it's a fundamental issue from Web 2.0, which was the idea was we used to have centralized data. It used to be in one place, which used to be a great idea. But maybe, Ilya, you can extend on this a little bit. Like, why is this a risk? Why is the old way of doing it just fraught with danger? And why is the new opportunity on the horizon?
Sure. So I think one of the things that's important for us to think about is, how do we get here? There's a little bit of history as, IT has been around for, a number of years and started impacting into how people manage supply chains, over the last, 30, 40 odd years. And part of that sort of started with, each company sort of started having their own database. Then we sort of developed integration, and the internet sort of accelerated that and enabled us to be more flexible and integrate with different partners and have flexible supply chains. Probably then, during the last 10 years or so, ERPs were sort of established around that and became quite common, and everyone had their own ERP. And to enable us to communicate, people put in place, encryption and new technology to basically secure these processes and these relationships between each other, so that they could be protected and data was secure. However, what's been happening recently is that the emergence of new security threats, we have malicious actors using AI, we have emerging technology which is eroding the value of the way we encrypted those relationships between parties. And so the trust has been that we used historically around these systems to establish that the confidence that we could basically each party would have their own trusted data and it was secure. That level of trust and the assumptions it's based on is eroding, and so we're now at a point where the bar to maintain that trust is going ever higher. But we're all now susceptible because of the way these things are structured to the weakest link within that supply chain. So we have to think about how do we reimagine trust and confidence in this new world, and that's really the problem which we're now sort of trying to tackle in an appropriate way that helps organizations implement this end-to-end security and trust through their supply chain.
So let's continue with you, Ty. So we've had this old model, and now a term that people often hear is blockchain, but don't really understand it. And then if we, as you guys have done with SQiBLE and Falconlabs, come together to start to join these together, what is it that blockchain is? And then we'll look at the AI element later, but explain how this is different and can increase our traceability.
Got it. So AgriTrace aims to connect all elements of the supply chain. So what we want to do is create complete visibility from end to end, which is just non-existent in today's systems, really. We do that with blockchain so that it's immutable, so that it can't be changed, so that everyone can have complete trust and confidence in it. AgriTrace is a solution that's designed to sit on top of existing systems, certainly not replace them in any way. And the idea is that as those existing transactions occur within those systems, AgriTrace is keeping a log and a transaction and adding information about it to the blockchain every time, so that we can create this end-to-end single source of the truth that can give complete confidence to anyone who interrogates the blockchain, if that makes sense, interrogates AgriTrace.
So it's basically and I'm sort of translating this. It's a space where the data builds progressively. So when you're looking at one piece of data, you've also got access to the entire history in the data, and also it's not stored in one place. It's dispersed through.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it means that we remove all of the vast majority of those major opportunities for fraud to take place, because all of a sudden we're basically shining a spotlight on any activities that can occur that don't align to that. The blockchain's got some intelligence in it that means it just simply won't write transactions that are not trusted, not verified as well. So everyone has visibility across the entire blockchain, and we've just removed those opportunities for fraudsters to intercept the transactions. So
Ilya, can you just add on to this about how the trust has changed here, and maybe even give us a very practical, how's it actually playing out as far as the producer and the customer experience?
Sure. So I guess the main thing is that we're really establishing that confidence and trust across the supply chain, despite that diversity of risks and threats. But we think about this practically. What we're doing is by building up that record, which has visibility across all those interactions, right? We're able to, increase the level of transparency, but also we make sure that within the blockchain, we're using, approved tokens. So for each of a product has, we generate a token, and each provider along the supply chain also has their own token. So we're bringing those pairs together that are unique and a one-time event. So as things pass through, we're recording those events in a way that is one time only, so it can't be replicated and someone can't duplicate it, but it's also immutable, so it can't be changed either. So people then have confidence that the product has gone through each step along the supply chain, and that it is not a duplicate, or there are no alternative providers within the supply chain either. It's only approved handlers. So we've got a great deal of trust, and everyone can see that visibility. So the producer can see what's happened and to reach the consumer, and the consumer can see everything that's happened to be there and know that none of those events can be modified or edited along the journey. So it builds a whole group of transparency and trust from both ends, which is really powerful.
So from a practical sense, what that means is that if I, as a producer, send, say, a container of, say, 10,000 units of something, the next location scans it and they can see 10,000 units with that barcode, and they can taste that one bottle, that one lobster, they can see its history. So when it goes to the next person, if there's suddenly 20,000 or there's duplicates of it, that is impossible. That code will no longer say that this is a legitimate bottle. This is no longer a legitimate product. And so we're using terms like tokens and similar, which is the tech, which is above my head, but I understand the practicalities. If I'm a customer spending a lot of money on a bottle of wine or a lobster, I want to know that I got the real thing, not just something that's been fluffed up in some shop at the back. So like, Ty, do you want to continue on this and just start to bring us to how the AI lens handles this? Because
Sure.
there's lots past it, but just start with how the AI taps in, and we'll look at the ERP progressively.
Sure. So from an AI perspective, really companies, because of these islands or silos of information, they can only really overlay AI or ML on top of their data, which means they're looking at a very small and narrow subset of information. AgriTrace opens up a whole heap of potential for us because we can see across the entire supply chain, which means we've just got more visibility than ever before, and things like anomaly detection, so to improve security and compliance, is possible across an entire process, whereas otherwise it would have been isolated. Not only that, we're building AI into the way we integrate with applications, obviously to be able to tap into so many different suppliers along a process. So what we're doing is using AI to make sure we're not hard coding any of the connections, so we can deploy it faster and support more and more companies across the whole thing.
So as you're listening to this, everyone, feel free to either drop in some questions into the chat because we can look at them, because we are covering a lot. Like, just in my learning of this and the product, the way it works, it's super complicated. There's lots of questions that come up. So sometimes this can be an oversimplification because you know the challenges in your own business. So if you've got a key but in your mind, feel free to drop it in the chat, or we can speak to you afterwards, but I'm just flagging that opportunity. Ilya, can you just walk us through then just what a series of events might be off the back of what Ty's talking about here? So give me an example of the events that we're either tracking or that help me understand it more.
Yeah, so I think if we look at a particular event that happens along the supply chain, there are obviously a number of events from producers to distributors and wholesalers and entry and exit ports, as well as on the consumer and the retail side as well. But if we look at any one of those events, essentially what we're doing is that today, that event will be created within the ERP, wherever it is. So let's say it's for a wholesaler that has received the wine. So they will basically have an event to say that they've received it, and they will create that event within their ERP. And what we're looking to do now is basically then say that we pass that event, so almost like logging that event to AgriTrace. And AgriTrace is basically saying, okay, we see that event. What we need to do is we need to understand that there is some essential things out of that. We don't want to have all the sensitive information, all the PII data. We really want to focus on the key events around, the product and the asset, where it landed, what the type was, what the shipment ID was, the timestamp. So just the basics. And then basically we parse that event. So that's where AgriTrace with the Brain AI is actually parsing that event to make sure it's just the information that's required. And we're then creating, we're logging that event into the blockchain, where that blockchain is essentially hashing up a unique fingerprint for that event. So it's basically saying, well, I'm taking a combination of that product token, the where that event happened, and some metadata. And I'm hashing that up into a fingerprint. So it's a unique one-time representation, and that then becomes logged to the actual blockchain. So that becomes appended. So there are a sequence of events before that becomes appended, and again we can do more events after that, and then so those are then added to the blockchain, and the record, the identifier for that is passed back to AgriTrace. So we have a record of that, and what's happened as we go along with this, then the ERP system or anywhere along that process can then actually ask AgriTrace, for that event history. And so this is a logical thing at, the end of, if a restaurant, buys a bottle of wine from a local distributor, right? They can then scan those in to their inventory, and they can actually see, right, a complete history of the events for that asset, and they can be confident that they're actually getting what they're trusted, and it's become, so we have that full visibility of provenance across the supply chain. So that's just taking that one event and thinking about that multiple times across the supply chain, but that's how we really help create that visibility and trust through that mechanism.
So on that, I can totally see the trust, and I've come across this because I've been talking to you guys about it. So I really understand. I can be at the end now. I can scan my product and have confidence. And I'm understanding there's an infrastructure that allows that. Ty, I know you commented on this a little bit, but as far as the a company utilizing a tool like this, like these companies have got so many ERPs, they've got so much tech, they don't want to have to rebuild, right? So. And I know the diagram on stage refers to that, but do you just want to just comment on that again? Like, as far as a company stepping into the utilization of this, is this light years out of their reach, or is this what's practical?
Look, this is practical today, and it's been a big part of the way we've architected the solution to make sure that for a company that they can embrace this. If you think about an organization trying to get on board with blockchain technology and secure even just their piece in the supply chain, it's a massive challenge for them because they've got these ERP technologies that have been in there for 20 years or whatever, and it can be really, really hard. Those systems work a certain way. So as part of what we've done, we've designed AgriTrace to sit on top of the ERP to add a layer of compliance and security without being invasive, without having users change their processes or procedures. So largely, we don't want users to even know that it's happening, as in the day-to-day user, know that it's happening. But we want management to see the benefit and get this improved level of security and compliance across the top. So it is really decoupled, and it delivers a seamless experience.
Okay, so I can see that, and I've learned too that it doesn't have the disruption that other things might have. I know there's some companies that are referred to in the industry where you buy their software and then the bus of consultants turns up out the front to patch in 25,000 different things because the software is incomplete. So what you're flagging there is super attractive. So I'll just open the floor to any questions. If you throw your hand up if you've got any questions. It's not something that people are super passionate about, in case there's somebody out there, especially if I've missed something. While we're just waiting, Ty, earlier, did you have something that you wanted to flag that you feel like we're not saying, like something to reiterate? From my end, I know that $3 billion cost to Australian business is actually coming out of individual business. Individual businesses are actually feeling that pain. And so I feel like the traceability is exciting and the point of difference is exciting. And the customer would, if they got between two items and they got one that's got the traceability and one that doesn't, they're clearly going to go with the one that's certain. Is there anything else that you wanted to add just while anybody's flagging for a question?
I think for me, the world's changed lately, and it used to be a matter of if we would get hacked or if we would get fraud or whatever it would be. Now across traditional systems, it really just feels like a matter of time. It's when will they be? So I think it's just a general message that this is the future and it is the right approach. It's the only one that I can see that will completely secure that supply chain. So yeah, just in general, the time to act is now.
It's certainly unsettling. It does feel like that, even in our personal lives and smaller businesses. It's that sooner or later it's going to happen without even the vulnerability of supply chain. Ilya?
Yeah, I think one way to think about building upon that is, your ERP is the system of operation, but the blockchain extends that and provides a system of proof. So this means that you don't have to, if you are hacked or compromised, right? You have that that proof of your transactions and what's been handled, that you can fall back on, that you can be confident about. And by doing so, it also allows you to build that trust and confidence into your brand as well. So while it is a technology solution, ultimately it's about helping your business be more resilient and giving you competitive advantage through brand differentiation as well.
Okay, I didn't see any questions pop up. Erin, did I miss something? All good? Okay.
My fault. I forgot to put everyone back as a contributor. So if there are any questions, go for it now, please.
Thanks to the magic of IT problems. So, hey, listen, so to close out, everyone, this is a really exciting era. And the only way this has been able to happen is we've got two companies with very unique expertise that by chance of a lot of people who knew each other have managed to come together and create this. This is not something that can be built easily. It is super complicated. That being said, you're going to have questions about how it impacts your own business and your own supply chain and the specifics of your particular produce. Tony, who's been on the call today, is listening in. He's the person who's going to take your call, and eventually, depending on who, what you scope out to him, he'll be able to connect you to any of the rest of the team. Ty from SQiBLE, Ilya from Falconlabs, and Erin, myself, and Tony, we're the support team to the geniuses. So I'm closing out now. I didn't see any questions come in, Erin. So look, thanks very much, everybody.
There was a question that just came through.
Oh, did it? Did one come through? Okay, go on. Oh, here we go. Do we see this technology becoming regulatory or mandated? Actually, Ilya, do you want to just comment on that, actually?
Yeah, so I think regulators tend not to get too specific on technology. I think what we are seeing, in some overseas markets, particularly China, is that it's been regulated the need to be able to demonstrate provenance and the end-to-end traceability through the supply chain. And if you look at the global trade situation as well, that probably puts pressure on governments to be able to do some of that as well. So I think we'll see more regulatory pressure to be able to provide proof along the supply chain for a number of different reasons. But I don't think they'll necessarily choose the technology. But I think it does mean that as a producer or an end consumer, right, that there's definitely going to need, or an end retailer, there's definitely going to need to be capability to provide certainty around how products are moved and particularly across international borders.
It's an interesting one because you've got to cross international borders. So who's in charge of the rule? The industry probably would, I guess, at some point. But because this is tracing authenticity, it may not be it could be a safety issue for some products. It's a great question, actually, but usually government just chases these things. Ty, maybe you want to comment? So does this mean about the barcode question there? Does this mean that every bottle needs its own barcode?
It does. Like, barcodes are common on, let's say, a bottle of wine as it is at the moment. So that's fine, but this solution doesn't require really any extra barcodes to be placed on the bottle. What we're allowing for is the situation where a bottle could be duplicated, at least identical copy, even if the contents are changed. And this process, the one that we're using, will still detect that a duplicate has occurred, and it will detect the attempted fraud, and it will flag it across the supply chain. So this process, and I think it was Anthony's question, so back to Anthony. To me, not exactly. We don't need an additional barcode, an additional QR code. The existing QR codes and barcodes are enough for us to link back to the blockchain. What we're using is a single transaction, like a transaction, let's say a sale to a final consumer. That's an easy one to explain. That can only happen once for that bottle. Yeah, it can only happen once unless it's returned or whatever. It can only happen once. So we can detect anomalies like that very easily.
So if I just play the devil's advocate there, if I speak on team's behalf, it's plausible though that if I send 300 bottles with the same barcode, that there's at least 300 reads off that. Is that, and this is the thing, you know, like, you know, you guys are more thought this through more than me. So maybe comment on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we can detect on the quantity if the barcodes are the same in that way. But if each bottle has its own unique code, even if that unique code is duplicated,
right?
That unique code is duplicated, the second one will trigger the event and trigger the failure. If they're all the same and there's 300 of them, and that's okay. It'd be the 301st that triggers the anomaly detection.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. Like sooner or later, we have to go here because there is just, you know, the duplication industry is absolutely huge. The theft, the trust in the Australian brand too, where Australia is known for honey and incredible fish and wine and similar things. Like essentially, sooner or later we'll get there. There may be some small changes on the ground, but what we're learning here is the most of the change is actually in your IT infrastructure and how it's changed and being able to bridge from your 2.0 infrastructure to Web 3.0. And if that bridge is made, it is very minimal that you actually have to change. And that's a large thing to take away from today. Look, just conscious of everybody's time. If you're anything like me, every hour there's another meeting and you don't want to be a minute late. So, hey, thank you for your time. Please reach out to Tony, the email's on the screen there, or reach out to whoever introduced you to today. Some people who are listening to recordings, thanks for listening. Just reach out to whoever gave you the recording and I'm sure that the right person will reach out. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to Ty and Ilya for putting the time in to be able to simplify what were really big genius concepts in the background. It came across well and clear. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, team.